Hi everybody, David here with Via Render. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. This video was originally intended to be part of a Udemy course that I had recorded and never actually posted. I've gone ahead and posted it to YouTube for free, and I've consolidated all of the 20 clips into one larger video, which is about an hour and 21 minutes. In it, I'll go through the setting up of the SketchUp model, bringing it over to D5, going through materials, camera work, setting up your render settings, exporting it, and then going into post-production in Photoshop. I'll go through all of the steps that I've used, and this video was recorded with D5 Render Pro. I think about 2.3 is the version, but many of the concepts are still valid. It's here on YouTube for free with improved sound based over the original postings, and it's also available for free on Gumroad. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and bounce in and get started. Thanks for watching. Okay, everybody. So before we bounce into D5, it's good to take a quick look at the actual model in SketchUp. Okay, you'll notice a couple of things. First is that we have the outside or exterior walls. We've gone ahead and given them a specific color. This is so that we have complete control over the materials that we apply in D5. We want to avoid situations where we go ahead and apply accidentally a light emitting material, such as an emissive material, or something that will cast a very strong color. By having the exterior walls painted, and to some degree some of the interior walls painted with a neutral color, we can hope to avoid that. Now, you'll also notice that we have strategically placed some basically planes with trees on them. These are just to act as a surrogate background within D5. We want to just ensure that the horizon line is completely hidden. All right, let's take a look at our actual model. And to do this, what we can do is go ahead and hide a number of these surfaces. We have a door entrance to the bedroom. I'm going to go ahead and right-click and hide that. And let's go ahead and hide a number of these walls. All right. And I'm going to hide some more. You'll notice as well, our walls have thickness. This is considered good working practice. You want to make sure that you don't have accidental light bleeds coming through the walls, which will kind of ruin parts of the render. So it's a good idea to give your walls thickness. I'm going to go ahead and hide the roof again. All right. So looking at our bedroom, we can see we have our pronounced accent wall, which is going to be the visual highlight. Zooming in a little bit more, you can see we have a nice archway, which will lead directly into the bathroom area. We've got a freestanding sink area right here. And just to the right, where our scale measurement is standing, we're going to have a free-floating shower. And if we zoom out here again and take a look under here, you can see we have a slight wall barrier. That's going to be where our toilet area is going to be. All right, with those said, we're in a pretty good spot. Let's go ahead and do Control-A to select everything, right-click, and what we can do is go View, Hidden Geometry, Hidden Objects, and Control-A and Unhide. All right, this will give us back our default settings. Let's go ahead to the D5 converter. I'm going to go ahead and update that. And we are using D5 version 2.3, the most current and up-to-date D5 build. All right. Here is our model within D5. I'm going to go ahead and change how we navigate from orbit to fly. And this will allow us to use the WASD keys in order to move in and around our model. The middle mouse button will also allow you to orbit. All right, let's zoom in a little bit to our actual build. Okay, so a couple of things to note. You'll notice that we have a few assets here that were not in SketchUp. We have our actual light model, we have a bed, and we have a number of dressers here to the right. Now, these are available from iMesh, They are 3D model objects from iMesh's asset library, and I'll go ahead and link out to that later on. Please note, these are not a part of D5, or they're not available through the SketchUp warehouse as well. So I'll link out to iMesh, and towards the end of this video, I'll talk a little bit about how you can go ahead and get access to the iMesh series of assets. Now, if we look in here, we can see this is where our bathroom is looking. Our scale measurement is still there. You'll also notice that every wall and surface has been uniquely color-coded. This means we should be able to apply specific materials to the specific parts that we want. All right. With that being said, we can also look out to the left and see that our horizon line is mostly hidden. This is exactly what we wanted. And we will be adding some actual 3D model trees from D5 outside the windows to just give a little more illusion of depth. Okay, in the next video, we're going to go ahead and talk about setting up the materials for this scene. Okay, with the concrete wall done, we're going to go ahead and bring back up the material asset library, and we're looking for wood floor materials. You will find those under the floor tab, and if we open that up, we've got these wood floors, and there's about 246 of them currently in D5. Now, some of them, like the herringbone wood materials, may not be suitable for our floor material. So we're more interested in these lighter looking and slightly more worn wood materials. You can also heart a material, which will add it to your favorites. And to undo that, just go ahead and click the heart material again. And I've gone ahead and just added a wood material that I think will work pretty well for the floor. So we've got this one here. Natural color brick wall, and you can see that is under the favorites tab now. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and apply that to the floor. Okay, looks pretty good, but let's go ahead and rotate it. Over here on the right, under the inspector, you'll see the options for the stretch, offset, and rotate. I'm going to change the rotate to 0. Okay, how's that looking? Not too bad. I think the material scale could be adjusted as well. We can go ahead and just make this a little bit larger. Let's go ahead and just type in 1. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. If we pull the camera back, we could probably make those a little bit larger. Let's do 0.6. Okay, that's at least good for now on the wood materials. Let's also do the same for the walls. We're going for a minimalist look to this, so a lot of browns and tans. So let's go again to the material asset browser up on the left, click on that. And under wall and roof, you'll find the wall paint options. And there's a lot of different ones that we could use here. I've gone ahead and just picked one that I liked and added it to the favorites tab. So what we have is the white rough wall. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and apply that over here. And I'm going to run this around the surfaces that I think would need just a basic white wall. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm also going to apply this to the roof, but I'm actually going to go ahead and change the color. So let's use the eyedropper tool, which is I on the keyboard, to sample. I'm going to go to the top right up here where it says O and duplicate. I'm going to click on that and apply it to the ceiling. Now, the problem with doing that is it looks pretty much identical to the wall materials. I'm going to go ahead and again use my eyedropper sample, and let's go to the map options here. We'll open that up, and you can see again, here's where we could load up if we wanted our own default materials, our own PBR materials, but we're going to go ahead and change the base color. That'll be right here on the left. I'm going to left click on this little square icon, and I'm actually going to go ahead and just drag this slider down and just a little bit. We're just trying to make it seem a little darker. There we go. It's still effectively just a white rough wall paint material, but I think that will look a lot better in our render, especially if parts of the ceiling are visible. You want to make sure there's a visual cue that tells you that the roof is different to the walls. Otherwise, it'll all blend together. Okay, in the next video, we're going to keep adding materials, including the windows, and bounce quickly into the bathroom. In this video, we are going to jump into coloring and adding materials to the bathroom. Okay, what we want to do is, because we're keeping with our minimalist concrete style, I'm going to sample this concrete again, hit O on the keyboard one more time, and we're going to apply the same concrete to the back wall here and here. Now this may seem like a lot, but right now there's no lights in the scene and we've no alternative materials. On the floor, I've gone ahead and found a tile that I like. If we go to my recent tab here, we can see that we've gone ahead and grabbed a MIBI tile. So that's going to be under ceramic tile, and we're going to use this one right here, this MIBI cave tile. I think that looks pretty good. Now, to offset a lot of the concrete, we are going to go back to the wood materials. We're going to add a wood material that brightens up the scene just a little bit. And I think that looks good, but maybe we need something with a little bit more yellow. So let's grab this European birch and apply that. And that should work quite well. I think that looks really, really nice. We can always go to the right here and turn on the triplanar and ask D5 to figure out a better UV layout for the material. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now we've got a lot of concrete going on back here behind, and I'm going to just pull the camera outside so you can see looking down. We've got our original concrete wall at the back, very much an accent wall for the bedroom. We've got concrete extending here and here. That looks nice. And we've got this lighter wood material here. For this wall at the back, I want a neutral color, something that'll lighten things up a little bit. I'm going to go back to my recent. And again, let's go ahead and just grab a white wall paint and just apply that. I think that will offset pretty much some of the grays and darker colors pretty nicely. Now remember, this is also going to be our shower area right here, and our toilet will be hidden behind this accent piece. Now, it'd be nice to put some tile here just for privacy's sake. So let's go back to ceramic tile, and we're going to go and look for something a little bit maybe smaller that will work nicely with what we've already established. And I don't want this to be too patterned. Maybe these Cartier tiles. You can go ahead and apply them. And I think that looks good. We may adjust the scale a little bit, maybe try and get a little bit more in there. I think that looks nice. And again, if we want, we can try the triplanar, but I think it looks fine without it. From looking in from the outside, you can kind of see now, it looks pretty good. We do need to cap our arch as well. So I'm going to extend the wall material, use I on my keyboard, grab that, hit O, and apply it right there. Now we'll get a much nicer seamless blend. Okay, in the next video, we're going to look at our objects and start color coding and texturing them. Okay, so you can see that I've gone ahead and unhid the furniture layer that's accessible over here on the left, and we've gotten our bed, and some of the drawers and presses are back. Okay, so what we want is, in keeping with the style that we've chosen, a minimalist chic with concrete look, let's go ahead and add some wood material to this bed that will look a little bit textured. Okay, let's hit M on the keyboard. And you can see I've gone ahead and under my recent tab, we've applied a material. More specifically, this dirty pine material, and we've gone ahead and applied it to the bedboard. Now, we do need to tweak it a little bit. And to do that, we're going to go over to the base color map here, and I'm going to click on these settings here. We have options here for adjusting the hue saturation. Let's go ahead though and maybe take this just a little to the left, ever so slightly. We want to just darken that texture a tiny little bit. We can also do this by going to the base color map and dragging this slider down just to make it a little bit more gray. Now, we may also want to tweak the actual scale of this material, and I'm going to go ahead and also turn on triplanar and ask D5 to come up with a better UV layout for this material. I think 1.8 will work very well on the scale, and I kind of like the look of that. Okay, on top of that, the actual mattress, we've gone ahead and applied a gray cotton, this material right here. And again, if you like the material properties, so for example, this gray cotton, but you want to change the color, feel free to go in here to the base color map and click on this icon right here. You can take the saturation slider to the left and then go ahead and move this to the right. Now that looks lovely. We just need to go and adjust the scale. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at 1. And I think that'll give us a very, very nice cotton effect. Okay, in addition, we also have this brown cotton fabric, which I'm going to go and actually apply to these pillows back here. Okay, that looks lovely. It's a little, scale is a little off. So if we don't like that, and you can kind of see there's a little bit too much texture going on here. Let's go ahead and maybe grab a different material. Let's grab this light gray linen cloth, and I'm going to apply that here as well. Okay, I think that looks a lot better. You've got this lovely textured effect going on. We can always try turning triplanar on or off, and if we don't like it, that's fine. And we can adjust the scale here by going maybe 1.2. I think the gray and the brown and whites all work pretty well together. And one other thing we might want to do is maybe try this solid cotton and linen and see if that works. I think that looks lovely on the throw or blanket, but again, I think the scale is just a little bit off. So let's go ahead and maybe take that up to 2. I think that looks really, really nice. Let's pull our camera back. The grays and browns and whites will all work pretty well together in this scene. I think that looks good for now. We've got a few more things that need to be looked at, including the windows and the dressers. And then it's time to start decorating. Okay, let's continue with our materials. Okay. Over here to the right on the dressers, we have gone ahead and I've applied this white wood grain material. Now you'll notice it comes in a little too strong. So let's go ahead and again turn on triplanar. I think the scale overall looks good. Let's go to the base color map. I'm going to click on that. Take the saturation to the left a little bit and then take the slider to the right. And that's going to basically strip away some of the color information and we'll keep the wood grain texture but give the impression that it's been covered in paint. All right, let's go to metal and let's look for something that could work for the handle pulls or drawers on this actual piece. Let's see if this brushed metal looks good. And I think that will work quite nicely. It gives it a slight industrial vibe. Over here on the windows, I've gone ahead and just applied a standard plastic material. If we wanted to, we could of course go in and replace that with actual metal, but there's a chance that that might look just a little bit too reflective. Under the plastic tab, the common ordinary light plastic is a really good material. I found it'll work well in a lot of settings. Okay, I think that looks good. Right now, everything is looking fine. I think we'll look at the lights. Now, we want to make sure, firstly, that we're able to apply a emissive material. So I'm going to go to Others, and let's look here really quickly. You'll see that we have a number of these materials, including base 4, that have emissive turned on. Let's select that and apply it. Okay, you can see nothing much has changed there, but if we go ahead and select that material, we should be able to turn emissive on. All right, now it's obviously not doing a huge amount just yet. That will be controlled by the intensity, and when we get to the rendered mode, we'll want to take a look at that again. But for now, it's enough to have an emissive material applied. Okay, in keeping with the other look, what about the metal for our imported lights? Okay, let's go back to metal really quickly and see what we can do here. We can look at polished metals over here, and let's go ahead and grab this mirror brass, and we can apply this and see if it looks good. Okay, I think that looks nice from here. If we find during the render that we need to move the lights down a bit, we can always do that too. I think it's time to bounce into the asset library and start setting up the decorations and using some of the fantastic assets that come with D5 Render. At this point, it's time to start decorating. I've gone ahead and made a new layer on the left called Additional Decoration. And the first thing we're going to do is add some bedside cabinets. So I'm going to go ahead and, bedside tables. I'm going to go ahead and go to Furniture. We're under the model library, so we've moved from materials to models, and we've gone to furniture. And you'll notice there are actually two sets of tables here. D5 differentiates between side tables and actual formal dining tables that are a little bit larger. We're going to look at just table first. And you can see we've got quite a lot of different options here. This table is found on the third tab, this modern light wood grain table. And I've gone ahead and placed one. I can hit Control D on my keyboard to make a duplicate and go ahead and left click and just place that there. Okay, looks nice. We need to then go ahead and add some sort of decorative elements to this. So we're going to go to accessories and we're going to look for the type of stuff that you would normally place on the side of your bedside table. So we can look for artwork, we can look for greenery, or we can look for really just small things that people tend to have beside their bed. Once we've done with that, we're going to bounce into the bathroom and start laying out our bathroom elements. All right, I'm going to start decorating, and one tip for decorating that I will give you would be to think along the lines of set dressing for a play. Think about who lives there, what their background is, what their interest is. Try and create a scenario for the people who would inhabit this space. I'm going to work my way through the accessories tab here in D5 and start adding things that I think will work with the overall look and feel of this render. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Okay, everybody, so we've gone ahead and added a little bit of decorative elements. Over here, you can see we've added some candles, and we've also added some clothing to give the impression that this is a lived-in space. The small details can actually go a very long way to setting the scene for your actual render. We've added some small little objects like the metal puppy ornament, some books scattered on the ground, and we've gone ahead and added some greenery. Potted plants and greenery will go a very long way to offsetting a lot of the grays and whites and neutral tones within the image and give it a slightly more earthen feel. Potted plants and greenery are also very useful for hiding and filling out corners. Now, one thing that notes is the concrete wall looks very impressive and imposing, lovely texture, but it's kind of bare. Let's see if there's anything we can do to change that. I'd like to add more texture and add a wall decoration. I'm going to hit M on the keyboard, and you can see we're in the model part of the asset library, and I've scrolled all the way down to the decal section. Now, a decal is effectively a flat stamp that you can apply to your object. So, for example, we could go ahead and select this safety sign, download it, and for some reason, apply it to the wall. But what we're going to look for is stuff that has a little bit more texture. We want to give the impression that there's more variation to this concrete, in effect adding intentional imperfections. So let's see what we can do here. We can always add a little bit of wall dirt if we wanted, but I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these water stains. I'm going to go ahead and apply that. I'm going to grab another one and put that over here. Now, you'll notice then that these are kind of heavy. They're quite overpowering. But if we go ahead and actually select them, let's go ahead and use the eyedropper tool and see if we can't select our actual decal. I click on, let's go ahead and just click on this decal really quickly. And here we go. I want to look at the opacity slider. So what's important with these is that you do have the ability to scale back the opacity on your decals. So you can use them in a very additive fashion without them necessarily being overpowering. Now, they'll add a nice bit of texture. However, do be mindful, the decals are effectively projected onto a surface. If you have any problems with them, you may want to just delete them. I'm going to go ahead and select using the object library, the other decals, water stains 1 and water stains 6 here. And again, let's go ahead and drop the opacity a little bit. I think that looks lovely. And let's do the same again over here. Drop the opacity. I like this crack effect though, so I may actually move this over, and I think that looks pretty nice. If you find that these are too strong in the final render, it would always be good to come back in here and just go ahead and tweak the opacity slider just a little bit there. That looks really nice. Okay, we also want some artwork. Now, for that, we're going to stay in the model library. Now, we could happily import our own pictures, but let's see what we can do under the wall decorations. Now, we've got some really lovely, really nice artwork here from D5. So let's look for something that will kind of match at least the color or tones of our actual image. And I kind of like this minimalist one. Let's try this out. Let's go ahead and click on that. You can see that it'll download pretty quickly. And let's bring that in. Now, let's see. Let's rotate this. And there we go. I just want to make sure that this is rotated as well as can be. And then go ahead and just pull that forward ever so slightly. Looking at it from the side here, I think it's kind of lined up nicely. And let's go ahead and minimize our asset library. Okay, it looks pretty good. Okay, let's move this a little bit to the right. Let's go ahead and undo that. And go ahead and just move this, kind of centrally align this if possible. While we're in this viewport, now is probably a good time to go over here to the scene list and create a new scene. I'm going to line up my camera as well as I want, and go ahead and click on Create New Scene. That means that as we pan or zoom around our image, we can always just go back up here, left click, and it'll bring us right back. Okay, I think that artwork looks pretty good. If we find that this reflective frame is maybe a little too reflective, we can of course always go ahead and just change it. But I think that looks really, really nice right now. Okay, now is also probably a good time to hit Control S and actually save our project. Just add a few more finishing touches to our interior bedroom shot. Gone ahead and added this very nice writing table. Gone ahead and added in another chair. Now, one thing to note with many of the assets in D5 is that unlike other asset libraries in other software, the D5 asset libraries tend to be editable. I can go ahead and use the eyedropper, select the back of this chair. I like the model, but again, not loving the color. So let's go ahead and just take that up here and then go back to the base color map. And again, we're going to go ahead and see if we can't just tweak this just a little bit. There we go. I think that looks pretty nice. The specular and roughness is nice. And again, it's really brilliant to be able to go in there and just make some alterations. We could also adjust some of these wood materials, make them a little bit lighter. Make them kind of just a little bit more up to date, a little bit more modern looking maybe. Again, just brightening things up. And I think that looks really good. Okay, that should be this section done. We are missing wall sconces and we are missing curtains, but we can add those momentarily. I think this section is done. Time to bounce into the bathroom. In this section, we are going to build up the bathroom entirely using D5 assets. I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer, and we'll call it layer 3. We'll call it bathroom. We'll just type that in really quickly, and that works. And let's go ahead and pull up the asset library. So I'm going to close out all of these tabs just to make things a little bit easier. And we're looking for the kitchen and bathroom section. Okay, let's go to the bathroom. And much like when it comes to painting our scenes with textures, we want to work large to small. Okay, what we're going to do here first is look for the actual toilet. So we're going to go ahead and just grab a toilet model here. We're going to download, and we're just going to place and rotate. And you can see how well that model actually looks in terms of that ceramic finish and how it's interacting with light. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, Let's spin our camera a little bit, and here's where our actual shower is going to be. Now we're going for a freestanding sort of open-ended shower. So let's go ahead and just grab this here, this metal shower nozzle, and let's go ahead and place that in and see how it looks. We're looking for a bathroom area where there's really no shower door, so it's all going to be very open-ended. Okay, you can go ahead and just place that in. And I'm going to just make sure that that's lined up correctly. I think it's slightly off, so we'll make a slight adjustment and then pull that off the surface. The reason you want to make sure everything is flush on the surface is because D5, if an object is slightly off the surface, it is going to cast a shadow and objects will look kind of like they're floating. You can see how beautifully rendered those shadows are right now. Okay, I like the look of that. I think maybe we may tweak that material a little bit, but all in all, that's looking pretty beautiful. Okay, let's go ahead and keep adding objects. I'm going to use this. We're going to grab a basin, and we're actually going to go ahead, and I think I'll use this slightly shallow basin. I think this will work pretty nicely. And let's go ahead and we're going to centrally place it while slightly eyeballing it. And let's go ahead and just spin it and make sure that it's nice and flush. I think that's good. We can always look at this through the top down. So I'm going to go display. Let's go to camera and go top. And let's see. I'm going to zoom out really quickly. Yeah. And we're going to use the middle mouse button to just go ahead and look at this. I think these are lined up actually pretty nicely. I think I can leave it where it is just by kind of guesstimating. I think that will work. Close enough is sometimes close enough. Back to the perspective mode. All right. And then we're going to look for some assets here as well. So we want to add some decorative components here. I'm going to grab these towels and just go ahead and place them to the left. Again, you can see that D5 is going to go and download these. Okay, let's go ahead and place our towels. Actually, let's place them to the right. And we can keep them closer to the actual shower itself. Let's go ahead and place those there. Looks good. And let's see. Let's grab this. And grab this towel basket set here. And we'll go ahead and place this underneath as well. Okay. There we go. Looks nice. Hand towels. Let's go ahead and download this. You can see just how easy it is in D5 to go about building an actual scene. It's incredibly easy to do this using the built-in asset library. Again, put that around 90, and then make sure that we can just pull that off just a little bit. Very nice indeed. Okay. And let's see what else we can utilize here. Let's go and grab some of these toiletry supply kits, and we're going to download these as well. And I think let's place these to the left. All right, I think that looks really lovely. It's a great asset kit. All right, there's some other stuff that we may end up adding to this, but for now, I think adding this last faucet is probably going to be the last thing that we'll actually do. I'm going to go ahead and place that there for now. And we'll always come back and revisit this before we get into our renders. But all in all, in terms of the sort of elegance and look and feel of the shot, I think it looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and just take a sneak peek here. There's some more stuff that I think we can definitely add in here. We do need a mirror, and that's going to help with our reflections and just help selling everything. And we are going to have to smooth out some of these edges. Okay, let's go find a beautiful looking mirror. Okay, so I've gone ahead and brought in a iMesh mirror. And again, I'll provide a link and instructions for how to access iMesh, particularly their subscription service. Now, you could easily have gone ahead and just placed one of the mirrors from the D5 asset library in there as well. All in all, our bathroom is looking very, very nice. There's a few tweaks that we may want to make, including making the tile a little bit more reflective and maybe adding some more wear and tear to the concrete to differentiate it. Okay, with that said though, let's talk about lights. So for our first shot, we are going to utilize as much natural light as we can get in the scene. That means we're going to be paying attention to the geo and sky options. Now, what I'm going to do is, you'll also notice I have added some more lights in the scene here, but for now, let's just concentrate on the actual environment. So our final shot is probably going to be set up something along the lines of this with slightly different focal length on the camera, but I think all in all, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and see, can we get some more light into the shot though? It's a good idea to try and utilize as much environment light as you can to try and get your renders to look as good as possible. I'm going to try and get light spilling through the window and hitting the focal point, which is the bed and the artwork and the concrete wall. So you can rotate the skylight to get light to fall in. And then if we go down here to the options, you'll see little 3 dots. We can open this up and we can really fine tune the light on our scene. Now, we'll ignore these lights here just for a moment in the scene. Let's continue tweaking the north offset and see if we can't get more light coming directly in where we want it to. Okay, I think that looks pretty nice. You can also tweak the month and day if you want to get very particular about the actual timing of the environment. You can also adjust the actual sunlight intensity, the brightness, if you will, of the actual ambient light coming from the sun. You can also increase or decrease the sun radius. And you can see that by taking it all the way to the left, we get much sharper shadows. And if we take it all the way to the right, we get very diffuse, soft lighting. I'm going to go ahead and just put it back to around the default 5. Looks good and looks pretty natural. Okay, with that being said, I think we're pretty happy with this. We can go ahead and update our scene in the top left corner. Now, please also be aware that we will be manually tweaking the exposure value. If I was to go ahead and turn that off right now, you can just see how bright things are. You can leave it on auto, but I strongly recommend you get in the habit of tweaking the exposure by hand and adjusting these post-processing settings by hand as well. Okay, with that being said, in the next video, I'm going to talk about actual lights in the scene for setting up an evening or nighttime render. One thing we need to add is some more trees. So I'm going to go ahead and we've got a tree layer over here on the layers palette. I'm going to go ahead and hit M on the assets library. And we're going to go to make sure we're set to model and go to nature. Now, one of the absolute brilliant things about D5 is the amount of vegetation assets. And we don't really have time to go through all of them today or discuss the benefits, but it's a fabulous library. And I'm going to go to broadleaf, and you can see I've got a number of ones that I've hardened. These will be available under my favorites tab as well. And anytime you want, you can go in here and add or remove these. Now, we want to add a few broadleaf trees, and we want to add them so that it kind of helps our scene sort of fits in the middle ground between our building and some of the trees in the background. So, to see how this looks, let's go ahead and go back to scene 1. Okay, looks pretty nice. Let's go ahead and maybe select these. And what we'll actually do is maybe move some of them down ever so slightly. We try and match our trees to the feasibility of our room. I'm going to go ahead and, by the way, a little pointer, if you find you can't select anything in D5, the most likely reason is because if you look on the left on the object tab, you're set to just look at lights. I'm going to go to all here. Okay, now we should have no problem going down here and selecting our trees or just left clicking on them. Okay, I'm going to left click and drag out a selection by holding Control and left mouse button. And I'm just going to move these down ever so slightly just to make sure that it looks good from our scene. I think that looks a little bit more natural, a little bit more organic. Okay, that's good. And I may go ahead and just duplicate this with Control D. I would like to maybe, if I can, get a little bit of some of the leaf shadow coming through. Let's see how this works. Back in our scene, let D5 update the viewport. I think all in all, that looks really, really nice. The trees in the background look pretty organic, and the brightness of outside really does help sell the realism and believability. Okay, this is all looking really, really nice. Now, let's take a critical look and see what we could change. We may want to adjust this table wood material to make it look a little bit more like some of the other wood materials. And I think we also have a little bit of empty space. We may end up scaling some of the pots. And we may also struggle to get some of this decoration into our shot. So that may need to be repositioned. Or we can utilize some of these assets back in the bathroom as well. We also want to adjust this tile material. I'm going to use the eyedropper, select it. And I actually want it to be a little bit more specular. I think I want this to be shinier and to give off kind of a nice reflection on that. Okay, and mirror-wise, I think we're looking good. Okay, I think it's time to go ahead and start setting up our render. Okay, so the final tweaks, we obviously added the trees. I've gone ahead and sampled the wood material here and placed it onto the outer edge of our table. Now, in addition, I've also gone ahead and just scaled up some of the assets, including the sculptures and the trees, mostly because they were starting to look just a little bit on the small side. When it comes to the arch, we can go ahead and if we look down the bottom of the materials tab, something new in D5 2.3 is the ability to round corners. We can see this on the actual area of our bathroom here. You can see where the round corner has been applied to the little lip that we had along here. This will give the impression of a beveled or curved surface. And this is very, very useful, mostly because most 3D objects tend to have mathematically hard edges, but that's just not the case for everyday assets in real life. So with the round corner option, we can go ahead and just put that down to maybe 3 or 5, and you'll get a very lovely highlight, but you don't have to add it to the geometry. It's sort of a rendering effect. Also gone ahead and added a few more towels, changed the metal color here on the actual shower head. You can see that used to be much, much darker. Slight adjustment to brighten it up just ever so slightly. And we've gone ahead and applied a wood wall in here. The bathroom was starting to look extremely granite and sort of stone heavy. We've also gone ahead and scaled up the tiles, and we've gone ahead and made them a lot more reflective. We've continued the white interior paint onto this wall as well. This kind of breaks up some of the gray concrete look. All right, with that said, we've got 2 scenes here. I'm going to go ahead and just add a few more, just move my camera into positions that I think will look really nice to help display this render. Now, also be mindful as well that, we got to tweak the camera too. We've gone ahead and picked scenes, but that's not necessarily the same as saying, hey, this is my final camera shot. So I'm going to go ahead and just add another scene here by clicking Add Scene. And we may find that we also want to take another shot from a different angle just to give the impression of depth. All right, I think that looks pretty nice. That will work. And I'm going to move the camera just ever so slightly here. We're just trying to set up as best a shot as we actually can. That kind of encompasses a lot of the room. And this can always change once we're actually into the rendered mode. I think that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and save that one too. We may spin our camera and go ahead and just find a bathroom shot. So something along the lines of this, perhaps either looking over the bed or just straight into the bathroom. I think that looks really, really nice. I think we'll get a little bit of the painting to the left too. But overall, the focal point should be the bathroom. If you're struggling to figure out the focal point, we can always go up to display on the top right And under the options, we can turn on the grid, and that will allow us to line up our shot really, really nicely. You know, I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and save that last shot. Okay, now, in addition, all of these saved scenes can, of course, be turned into nighttime shots just by changing the lighting. Technically speaking, we can go back to the Objects tab, click on Light, and actually turn off all of the extra lights that we went ahead and added. One other thing that I did do was also add a light strip under the, you can see right under here, under the sink in the bathroom. This is again available from the lights and is just a strip light. You can go ahead and just place that and it will kind of try and latch to the surface. And once it's there, you can use the normal move and scale tools to actually adjust it. I think that'll add a little bit, not a huge amount, but a little bit of light into the bathroom. Okay, let's go to our render settings and actually finalize our renders. Okay, everybody, now that we're done with all of our final tweaks and adjustments, and in saying that, we should also point out that within D5, you have incredible freedom to go back and make alterations and changes. And because D5 renders incredibly quickly, there's no problem with moving in a more fluid way. You don't have to set everything up perfectly and then wait hours for a render. You can set things up roughly, make a quick change, render it out, take a look at it critically, and then make some alterations again. All right, so let's do that. We're in scene 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 up here. Let's go ahead and just go to the top right up here where it says image. I'm going to click on that. Okay, so it looks pretty good. There's a couple of things that we need to do. I'm going to go to the bottom here and I'm going to make sure we're set to image. And then I'm going to tweak the field of view. So think of field of view as, if you will, sort of the zoom and focal length of the camera. So generally lower is going to work better for these interior shots. And, you know, there's no one size fits all for this. You're just going to have to kind of, you know, make sort of decisions about your own image, what you want in the shot, what you don't. There's no perfect scene setting that will just get you all the way there. All right, that looks nice. I'm going to go ahead and just update that scene by clicking Update Scene here. That should lock this camera. Now, you'll also notice that the aspect ratio is set to window. If we wanted, we can use a preset size, so 2K, 4K. I'm going to go and put the aspect ratio to 16:9, and that's going to more likely resemble what you'll see in the Udemy workspace. So this is my preferred way to do this, is put it on 16:9. And we're actually going to do a quick test render. I'm going to hit 2K. And one thing to note, guys, as you do this, as you click on these different levels and presets, you'll notice these bars have kind of appeared on the bottom and top of the screen. That is indicative or representative of what will actually be in the finished render. So you do need to kind of pay attention to that. Now, if you're also struggling to line up your camera perfectly, we can always go up to camera. And what we can do is, let's go to display, actually, I'm sorry, let's go to orbit and fly. And let's go ahead and put that down to like 2. That will determine how much movement you get in your camera. Under camera settings, we also have this option here for parallelism. So we're going to actually turn that on for each of these renders. So you can see when I move again, it does turn off. So go ahead and hit that on. Okay, now you can see we're using a 2K custom size here. Let's turn off all the channels. We only want to render basically a test render. It's going to be pretty low resolution, and we haven't affected anything else yet. We haven't adjusted the exposure, but let's just take a quick render test. It'll ask you where you want to save it, and I'm going to go ahead and just save it on this. The spot will work, Udemy renders, and we'll see how quickly this actually renders. Doing a quick test render will also give you an idea of what needs to be changed. Right now, I notice my eye keeps going to the darker areas. The staining, the decals that we put on the concrete are probably a little too strong right now, and I suspect that that is something that we'll have to reduce in each of our renders. It looks a little bit too distressed. All right, so you can see a 2K render took really just a handful of seconds to complete. Okay, let's go ahead and open this folder. And what we'll do is take a quick look. And there we go. There's your 2K render. And you can see it looks really nice. The textures look fantastic. The lighting looks fantastic. I do think the decals are too dark, but that's one of the great joys of being able to render at this speed is that you can actually look very critically at your work. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to change the decals, and what we can do is then reset up our render settings. Okay, so I've gone ahead and adjusted the field of view for each of our render settings. I've also gone ahead and made sure that parallelism is on for all of our renders. So now the scenes are set, the focal length is set. We've gone ahead and adjusted the preset size to 4K, which will give you a very lovely high resolution image. You could also go up to 6 or 8K. And what we will do is turn on the channels options. Now, the channels options will give us access to a number of other renders, including the sky mask, if you wanted to make a selection of the sky in Photoshop. The AO, or ambient occlusion, will effectively allow us to have access to a shadow overlay layer that we can place in Photoshop. Material ID will be useful for making selections if we want to make individual material tweaks. And finally, reflection, we can place that on a screen or light and blend mode to increase the fidelity of the reflections. Now, I'm going to turn off sky mask and transparent. We're not really going to utilize those, but at least the AO, material ID, and reflection. I've gone ahead and left things at JPEG from the previous render, but I'm going to go ahead and change these to Targa, TGA. Now, the last thing we need to do is go ahead and turn off the actual auto exposure. And we're going to adjust these values over here on the right individually on really a scene by scene basis. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just put the exposure back to 0. Now, you can see how dark that looks. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the grid. I think we're pretty happy with where the camera's at. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just grab the exposure tab and just start increasing this just a little bit. I'm going to let D5 update as I do this. I want to make sure that I've got control over the exposure. So I want a more accurate depiction of things. All right, I think that value looks pretty nice. I'm going to leave contrast because we'll actually add that in Photoshop. Highlights are going to be basically the lighter values. Again, with this, we could tweak all of this in Photoshop. It's nice to be able to set them up right now. I'm going to take the highlights up just a little bit. Shadows will represent the darker parts of your image, and slope will represent the mid values. I'm generally going to leave slope at 0.8, just the mid values, and then we can adjust the shadows ourselves. I'm going to take that to the right, and you can see how much darker things get. So let's take it back just a little bit. Okay, 0.6, I think I like the look of that. I'm comfortable with the white balance and the overall look and feel of the image. And we're going to leave tint, bloom, lens flare, and vignette, and chromatic aberration and saturation for Photoshop. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and I'm going to render out all 5 of these scenes. And I'm going to pause the video so you don't have to watch a render screen going. And I'll see you when we check out the finished results. Okay, everybody, with our renders done, we have gone ahead and bounced into Photoshop. Now, if you want a quick way to load up all of your renders, instead of going File and Open and manually opening them and then having to select them all and paste them into place, you can also go File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack, and you can browse and select all of the relevant files and go ahead and click OK. You can see here, that's exactly what we've done. And now our layers palette has got a nice arrangement of our renders. So we've gone ahead and grabbed a few of my preferred renders. We've got this one from the front, which is a daytime render. we've got this one looking into the bathroom over the bed, which I think was render 2 or 3, again daytime, and we've got a nighttime render. So we're going to go ahead and apply our post-production to really change the look and feel of these images, to make them pop, to make them look more dramatic, to boost some colors and to reduce others. Okay, to do that, we're going to start with this one here, which is our image number 1. We exported out of D5 the ambient occlusion, material ID, and reflection layers. So let's go ahead and use these first. I'm going to go ahead and grab the AO layer and drag it above the actual image layer. You can see that with the toggle is on and off. Okay, this is going to give our shadows a bit more depth. I'm going to go ahead and change the blend mode here to, let's go ahead and put this on. Let's check out overlay. We're going to try darken, multiply. I think overlay is going to give the best result. Okay, that looks good. It's pretty strong though, but you can kind of see areas that look a lot better, especially under the chair and really just some of those crevice areas. I'm going to go ahead and add a mask, and I'm going to grab a soft, fluffy paintbrush, and I'm going to go ahead and just start painting out my mask. Make sure I'm working in just black and white, so I can click the little icon here to the left and go ahead and just reset everything. Okay, and then we're going to start brushing this AO layer out of existence completely. And this is just how I learned to do it. You may prefer to work differently, but we're going to go ahead then and reduce our brush size, change the opacity. I'm going to put this around 50–60%. I'm going to start brushing back in with white on the mask the areas where I actually kind of like the ambient occlusion layer doing more work. I'm just going to slowly brush that in. That looks good. Let's try a little bit under the bed here, see how that looks. I don't want it to change the color of the bed too much. So we can go ahead and using black and white, just keep toggling between these, try and get the look that you want. A little bit more shadow in some areas is nice, especially these darker areas. I think it looks pretty good. Let's see what we can do on the roof as well. I don't really want a particularly very bright roof up there, so I think that looks good. All right, that looks really, really nice. Okay, moving on, we're going to go ahead and grab the reflection layer. It's on the bottom. I'm going to drag it to the top of the stack. Okay, yeah, that looks beautiful. You can get all these really lovely shiny reflections. We're going to go ahead and change the blend mode to either lighten or screen. Now, in this situation, I actually think we're getting a pretty good result with lighten. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that on. I'm going to add, again, a layer mask. And I'm going to change my brush completely to black. And we're going to paint out any of this shiny reflection. Okay, I filled in the entire layer with black, and I'm going to try and paint in some of these reflections that I want back again. And I really like the effect over the dog here. I think that looked pretty nice. And I'm just going to disable the layer mask by right-clicking on it really quickly. And yeah, I think maybe a few more areas that I think around the table leg, we could add a little bit more shine. Okay. I think that looks nice. And if we've got any sort of shadow or shine on the metal, let's see how that looks. Let me go ahead and put this back to normal. So yeah, it's kind of a toss-up between lighten and screen on this one. Lighten works good. I'm actually going to go ahead and reactivate that mask, put this down to 50%, duplicate it one more time, and we'll change this then to screen. And we can toggle this on and off. That way you're getting a nice blend of the lighten and screen filters together. So this one is set to lighten at 50%. This one is set to screen at 50%. Okay, with those done, I'm going to go ahead and hold down Shift, click on my bottom layer, right-click, duplicate these. And when they're duplicated, let's go ahead and right-click and merge these layers. All right, looks good. Let's bounce into Camera Raw, where we'll do the majority of our post-production. So I realized that before we bounce into Camera Raw, we should probably do something about our lights. You can see we've got our emissive materials are still lit up, including the ceiling light, the light into the bathroom, and the light on the right beside the bed. Okay, so one trick we can do with this is remember our material ID layer. I'm going to move that to the top of the stack. You can see this right here. We're going to make a selection from this. I'm going to grab my magic wand tool. I'm going to make sure contiguous is turned off. And I'm going to hold down shift, just left click and add our selections. I no longer need this layer, so I can drag it below the one that we had flattened. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and do Control C to copy and then Control V to make a duplicate. So it's hard to see, but on layer 1, this one at the top of the stack, all we have is a duplicate of the light. If I turn off everything else, there we go. You guys can see that pretty clearly. Okay, so now let's go ahead and undo that really quickly, and I'll get my selection back. So let's go ahead and W, and there we go, magic wand tool. All right, so on this one here, this layer, what we're going to do is actually go to the FX slider. We're going to hit FX and we're going to go outer glow. Now, let's see. What we've done is we've got an outer glow. I've changed the color to be a little bit more creamier and less white. So I think that looks good. We've put the blend mode is set to screen, and the opacity will determine just how vivid or how see-through this is. So we're going to go ahead and dial that down just a little bit. Less is more. The spread is about 21%, and the size will determine just basically how wide this effect is. We want to give the impression of a glow coming off the lights, but not that it's spreading for miles off. So I think that looks really nice. It is anti-aliased, and I'm using the default contour. And I'm going to go ahead and just click OK and Control D, and now you can see if we toggle this on and off, you can see a slight glow that surrounds your image. It shouldn't be overpowering. This is not a nighttime shot. It's just a daytime one. You can also see we have a slight artifact down here on the bottom. Let's go ahead and add a mask and just brush out that glow effect really quickly. There we go. All right, lovely stuff. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. This is the layer that was a duplicate of all the other ones that we merged down. I'm actually going to select this and the glow layer, and I'm going to right-click and duplicate those again. And I'm actually going to right-click and merge them down one more time. With everything else done now, we can select all of these older layers. I'm going to right-click and go ahead and put them in a group. There we go. That's all the old stuff in a group. We don't need that anymore. And if we do, we can open up the group and either copy these or drag them out of the group. All right, brilliant. Let's go to Camera Raw. Alrighty, let's go ahead and duplicate this one more time, and layer 1 copy, right click, duplicate it. Good work, practice, just get in the habit of duplicating as you go. Now, go up to filter, and go to Camera Raw here. I think it's Control Shift A will also bring that up. And we're going to do the bulk of our work in Camera Raw. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and just move this up a little bit so you guys can see everything. We're going to work our way through all of these in one sitting, and we're going to be mindful of what we set everything to, just because we are going to be applying the same effects to the second bedroom image. So you want to have some color consistency. So one way you can go about doing this is take a quick screenshot, and I'll show you guys how to do that really quickly. Okay. First, we want to adjust the temperature. I'm going to go ahead and move this to the right just a little bit. And again, less is more on these. These sliders are very, very potent in Camera Raw. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. This is the focal point. This is the part of the image that I'm most concerned with. All right. In terms of exposure, we may take that up just a tad. Just a little bit. I'm careful of all the whites in the image. I don't want to necessarily blow them out. And I don't want to over contrast this either. Looking at the contrast itself though, we could take that a little bit to the left. I think we've actually gotten maybe too much contrast going on. So yeah, let's go ahead and just take that to the left. You get a lot of dark shadows going on there. Okay. Highlights will look at the whitest parts of the image. I'm actually going to reduce them too. I'm a little worried about the image being maybe overexposed or blown out. Shadows will darken the darker parts of the image. We are actually going to lighten these ever so slightly. I think that looks good. And then the whites and black values will determine those specifically. Okay, I think I'm going to take the whites up just a little bit and the darks up just a little bit. Getting back some of that color information that was lost in the shadow over here. Vibrance, we'll take that up to the right. General rule of thumb, use vibrance a lot more than the saturation slider. I'm going to take that up, make the image pop just a little bit more. Okay, that looks good. All right. We don't need detail just yet, as we'll get to that later on. And color mixer. Now, this is really where a bulk of a lot of this post-production is going to take place. By default, it is set to the HSL mode, hue, saturation, luminance. I actually prefer using this color wheel approach so I can pick the individual colors that I want. Let's look at the yellows first really quickly. And I'm going to go ahead and just take these up just a little bit. You can really see that over here. When we look at, there we go, when we look at the gold in our table lamp. I'll slightly darken those, I think looks good. Yeah, looks good. All right, the oranges I think we're probably okay with, but let's go ahead and look at the greens here. Now, you can see that some of the green plants are very, very green. I'm going to actually reduce the saturation on them just a little bit. And looking at the luminance, let's go ahead and reduce that and try and even these out just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty nice. Shouldn't really have to worry about some of the other colors in here. There's not a huge amount of blue in the image overall, and reducing all the blue would effectively kind of warm up the image. It would give it more of an autumnal vibe, but I think we're actually pretty good here. Okay, we don't need the rest of these for now, as we'll get to them later. But I think overall the look is quite nice. Let's go ahead and click OK. All right, you can see the difference now between the default and the slightly color corrected. It's warmer, and it will be a little bit sharper here in a moment, but right now it just looks warmer and the golds pop a lot more. Brilliant. All right, everybody. One thing we'd like to do now is add a little bit more blue to the image. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my adjustments panel, and I'm actually going to go down to curves. And you can see I could click auto and ask Photoshop to figure this out, but I actually want to go and just under the RGB, grab the blue slider. And I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at kind of the darker areas. I'll lift this bar up ever so slightly just to add a little bit more blue into the overall image, especially in these lovely shadows. Okay, I think that looks nice. Let's go ahead and merge that down. Okay, we're going to do some finishing touches. Let's go ahead and duplicate this really quickly. Let's go first, filter, other, and high pass. And you can see high pass will give you this crazy gray looking effect, but go ahead and click OK. And let's go ahead and change the blend mode on this. So by normal, it looks kind of like this, but if we go ahead and change the blend mode to overlay, let's zoom in really quickly and just take a look at how much that detail pops. So you can see off, on, off, on. High pass is an incredibly powerful and efficient way to get more pop, especially in your textures. It's probably my preferred way of sharpening. Okay, let's right click and merge that down. We're going to duplicate this one more time. We're going to go filter, noise, and go ahead and just add a little bit of noise. 1.5 should be enough. Actually, 1.5 might be a little too much. Let's go ahead and just make that 1. Let's click OK. All right, let's duplicate this one more time. All right, I think that looks really, really nice. Now, we could go ahead and paint in a little dash of depth of field. So I'm going to duplicate one more time. I'm going to name this blur, B-L-U-R, click enter. We're going to go filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. And 4.5 is fine. Click OK on that. Go ahead and add a mask. And let's go ahead and paint on this. Now, you can see right now my brush is set to 100%. I'm actually going to drop it to about 70, and I'm actually going to paint out the mask. In other words, I want to paint visibility for the areas that I want back in. And I'm just going to slowly brush this over the image. Now, you can see I'm just painting in, trying to avoid that window area maybe just a little bit. No, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm just adjusting my brush here as I go. I'm just painting that back in. This is a rough, sort of hand-drawn. You can kind of see we've got slightly more blurring around the edges. Just give that impression that things are a little bit out of focus. And then that tends to be very, very strong. So let's go ahead and just reduce that to about 30-ish%. You're just giving that slight, 40 might work, just a slight blur. Right click and merge it down. Okay, we're going to go ahead and make a copy of all of these. Right click, duplicate those layers, right click again and merge them. Now, this I'm going to call final. And the old ones, let's go ahead and select them and just put them into a folder. Now you can see here, this is our final. It's got the high pass, it's got the blur. We could go ahead and pretty much almost restart the process if we wanted to, but I'm thinking that this looks pretty good. Let's duplicate it one more time, and we'll go filter, and let's go to lens correction. Now, we're gonna go to the custom tab, and we're going to go ahead and just tweak this ever so slightly. We're going to add in a little bit of distortion. So I'm going to type in -1, because this will give the impression of a camera, this slight bulge on the camera lens. And so this should be coming a little closer to us. Okay, I'm also going to add a slight vignette. If I go ahead and move that to the left, you can see we darken this just a little bit. And we're going to zoom in and let's add ever so slightly a little bit of chromatic aberration, which will just add imperfections to the lens. Let's maybe grab the yellow. I want to see how the yellow looks. And yeah, you can see you're getting a little bit of fringing around there. Let's go ahead and go fix the blue and just see if that works. There we go. Lovely stuff. You can kind of see it around the edge there. And I think that looks pretty good. All right, -37. All right, let's go ahead and click OK. And I think that is render 1 done. All right, brilliant. It's time to do the same effect and do the post-processing on this render. So we're going to move a little faster. I'm going ahead and put the AO layer at the top. It's already set to overlay here. And I'm going to add a mask. And we're just going to paint out where the ambient occlusion layer is maybe just a little too strong. Okay, lovely stuff. Toggle that on and off. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and move the reflection layer to the top as well. Change the blend mode here. I'm actually going to put it on lighten, and I'm actually going to keep, I think I'm going to keep that there. Screen might be a little too, let's do the same. Maybe let's do 50-50. Let's right click, duplicate, and go ahead and put to lighten. All right, select all of these, right click and duplicate them. And then right click and merge them down. Let's go ahead and hide all the old ones. This time we will keep the material ID just in case there's something we want to use there. All right, right click, duplicate layer, click OK. Go filter and up to camera raw filter. Now let Photoshop think for a minute. And here we go. All right, brilliant. Let's move the temperature a little bit to the right, add a little bit more warmth and brown to the image. Let's go ahead and look at the exposure tab here. And I think we're actually okay with the exposure just about there. All right, we can look at the contrast, and I'm going to go ahead and just see how this looks. I think about here will work fine. Highlights, we just want to make sure that we don't have any blown out parts of the image. So I'm actually going to move them back to the left quite a bit. Shadows, yeah, you know, I think I kind of like And I'm going to warm these up ever so slightly. So we're stripping out some of the white, adding a little bit of darkness there. Okay, the overall white values I still think are pretty good. I think I'm maybe going to leave these around here. And with the blacks, let's just go ahead and I might lighten these. It'll add a little bit of brightness to the area around the plant. Okay. Now, one thing we didn't do before in the previous image was to add a little bit of texture. So we can go ahead, and if you can think of the texture and clarity sliders as all on the same sort of level. Think of them as texture working at the largest, then down to clarity, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab the dehaze and just adjust this ever so slightly. Dehaze is one of those very overpowering sliders. It can give you an amazing look, but I think maybe we're good where we are. Okay, let's go ahead and grab our vibrance and take that up quite a bit. That'll really help saturate all of those colors. Okay, we don't need curves right now, and we don't need detail, as we'll add that later. Let's go back to our color mixer. All right, I'm going to grab the oranges here and maybe just take this a little bit to the right, and the luminance. I don't want to make it too orange though, so we want to be mindful with that. Let's adjust our blues. There we go. And again, this is just tweaking them. I'm going to grab the greens a little bit and look again at that saturation. Maybe take them down. They're very, very green. And then we can adjust the luminance. So they're slightly desaturated, but they are a little bit brighter. Okay, I think that looks really, really lovely. Okay. Now, this is a good point to go ahead and click OK. Yeah, I think you can kind of see we're getting an awful lot of that warmth back in. It's very easy to set up a daytime render in D5, but we're also going to render out a nighttime shot. You can see here, I've gone ahead and set the geo and sky to around 850, somewhere between 8 and 9 will work nicely for this. What this means is I don't have any ambient environment light coming into the shot. So around 8 to 9 will work very, very nicely. Now, let's take a look at what we also have in the scene here. We have this bedside lamp, which is a light model. We go ahead and go back here. We've got options under lamps for chandeliers, wall lamps, table lamps, things like that. So we've gone ahead and placed one. Most of these D5 assets seem to use an emissive material. And we can see we've got 2 more of these wall assets sitting on the walls. Now, inside in the bathroom, we've gone ahead and applied a chandelier. It's a circular modern chandelier, which again, if I use the eyedropper, you can see has an emissive material on it. You can get a nice look using just emissive materials. I wouldn't rely on them exclusively to light your scene, but it will get you about 60 to 70% of the way there. Now, to add more lights, the best way to do it is to go up here to where it says Add Lights. And we've got options for the different lights. We're going to utilize 2 in particular. The first is a spotlight. Now, I'm going to go to the Objects tab over here on the left, and you can see if I click on this little icon here, I can select light models, I can select all, or I can select any particular asset type. I'm going to keep this on light. We're going to go ahead and turn on the visibility on light number 1. This is a spotlight style light. If I look on the right, you can see it uses the default IES light profile. We have sliders for the intensity, and we also have a slider for the cone angle, which is going to basically turn it into a very tight spotlight or spread it out just a little bit more. Attenuation radius will also determine effectively the fall off of this light. Now, I think somewhere about there looks pretty good. You can also see if we look on the chair here, we're getting some pretty hard edge shadows, which is really nice. Spotlights will give you very nice hard edged shadows. In terms of color, it's completely neutral. We just want that shadow information. In addition, I've gone ahead and added 3 point lights. A point light is effectively going to be very similar to an omni light. It's a sort of invisible circular light that emits really light in a circular radius. You can see if I move this one here, Let's go ahead and just change the color. If you would like to see how these lights are actually affecting your scene independent of the overall brightness, under the property tab at the bottom, we've got the color options. You can go ahead and select this, and I usually like to crank this to the red, and that will tell me very vividly where the light is actually working. So in this case, if we were to drop the attenuation radius down, you can kind of see the sphere of influence gets really small. We can also adjust the intensity and the attenuation radius in concert with each other to really fine-tune our lights. So I'm going to hit delete on that light and look at the three that we have. These point lights are all situated close to the proximity of where our chandelier light is coming from. And you'll notice that they do have varying levels of attenuation radius. Some are going to fall off quicker than others. This is because we have technically three light sources in this chandelier. And you can go ahead and just build up the intensity and attenuation radius of each of these lights independently. There we go. Looks pretty nice. You can also adjust the temperature of these lights. So if I move the light temperature to the left and I increase the intensity, you can see just how much orange glow is put into the scene. If I move it to the right, you can see how much blue the light will actually add. So this will allow you to fine-tune the colors. A blend between the blues and oranges should look pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and just dim the intensity again on this one. Put this down to a pretty low value. There we go. And maybe increase the attenuation radius. Okay. And the same for these ones. We're going to move the temperature a little bit to the left and increase the attenuation radius. There we go. I think that looks pretty nice. It is still a little blown out. We will probably end up going to the effects tab and adjusting the actual exposure manually. That is something that I strongly recommend that you do for all of your D5 renders. Anyway, we're going to leave that to auto for now, but that's just a simple way to go about setting up a nighttime shot in D5. We also want to make sure that we're not seeing any of this environment outside. So if you do find the trees in the horizon line are becoming visible at night, let's just bounce back to SketchUp and actually hide these entirely. And if we update our D5 converter, now when we go back, you'll see that we shouldn't be seeing any trees outside in our night shot. Now, all right, I think that looks pretty good. And we're going to bounce into some last level tweaks, and then we'll set up our renders.